So we are reading the Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel, and we are on the second chapter, Symbols and Agreement, page number 26 of the PDF.
Symbols and Agreements, the Art of Humans.
Shivangla, you have to raise your voice.
During all the years that we grew up, we make countless agreements with ourselves, with society, with everyone around us. But the most important agreements are the ones we make with ourselves by understanding the symbols we learned. The symbols are telling us what we believe about ourselves. They're telling us what we are and what we are not, what is possible and what is not possible. The voice of knowledge is telling us everything that we know. But who tells us if what we know is the truth?
So again, when we are doing the programs, right, the Monroe programs, when we are going into these altered states, one thing we keep repeating to everyone is that in those states, you have to develop your own symbolism. You have to develop your own method of communication in those states of consciousness. What do the symbols mean to you? So he's saying the exact same thing here, that today the most important agreements that we make are the ones that we make with ourselves. What are the symbols around us? What is nature telling us, and what do we read into it is the most important. This is something that we saw in the left hand of God, Agora, the left hand of God also. When we were reading that book, we saw that the hero in the book, the Agori, was constantly looking out at nature to get symbols, to get messages from nature, and then applying them in his own life, right? So our symbolism, the language, our self-talk, what is the track running in our minds is what makes us what we are, right? So that's the most important thing about symbolism when we are looking at it.
When we go to grammar school, high school, and college, we acquire a lot of knowledge, but what do we really know? Do we master the truth? No, we master a language, a symbology, and that symbology is only the truth because we agree, not because it's really the truth. Wherever we are born, whatever language we learn to speak, we find that almost everything we know is really about agreements, beginning with symbols that we learn.
So again, everything is about an agreement, right? Today, all of us agree that a 100 rupee note is valued at 100 rupees. That is why it is valued at 100 rupees. Tomorrow, suddenly we decide that the paper money has no value, and everyone decides that it will suddenly have no value. So everything that we are experiencing is dependent on the agreements that we have made with each other, society, and our community.
If we are born in England, we learn English symbols. If we are born in China, we learn Chinese symbols. But whether we learn English, Chinese, Spanish, German, Russian, or any other language, the symbols only have value because we assign them a value and agree on their meaning. If we don't agree, the symbols are meaningless.
So again, very important, right? If we all don't agree on something and we are all in mutual consensus, then it will not mean anything.
The word tree, for example, is meaningful for people who speak English. But tree doesn't mean anything unless we believe that it means something, unless we agree. What it means for you, it means for me, and that's why we understand one another.
So again, this is based on agreements, right? We both agree that this thing means this. That is when it means the same thing to us. But if something, again, everyone is looking at things from their own perception, right? So if our perception is different from someone else, then we may not agree on what we are saying is it, right? So if a tree I may not agree that it's called a tree. It may be called a bush, for example. So then again, it's all based on agreements.
What I'm saying right now, you understand because we agree with the meaning of every word that was programmed in our mind. But this doesn't mean that we completely agree. Each of us gives a meaning to every word, and it's not exactly the same for everyone.
So again, all of us have a different perspective.
If we focus our attention on the way any word is created, we find that whatever meaning we give to a word is there for no real reason. We put words together from nowhere, we make them up. Humans invent every sound, every letter, every graphic symbol. We hear a sound like A and we say this is the symbol for that sound. We draw a symbol to represent the sound. We put the symbol and the sound together and we give it a meaning. Then every word in our mind has a meaning, but not because it's real, not because it's truth. It's just an agreement with ourselves and with everybody else who learns the same symbology.
So again, it's a matter of agreement. We all agree A means A, right? So A is equal to apple. We all agree to it. That's why it is, the apple is called an apple. Tomorrow, if it was called a save in Hindi, that means it's a save. Now, someone who knows English will say it's an apple. Someone who knows Hindi will say it's a save. But it's the same thing, but we will not understand each other, right? So that agreement of understanding becomes extremely important. Otherwise, we don't understand each other.
If we travel to a country where people speak a different language, we suddenly realize the importance and power of agreement. A tree is only a tree, the sun is only the sun, the earth is only the earth if we agree. These symbols have no meaning in France, Russia, Turkey, Sweden, or in any other place where the agreements are different. If we learn to speak English and we go to China, we hear people talking, but we don't understand a word they are saying. Nothing makes sense to us because it's not the symbology that we learn. Many things are foreign to us. It's like being in another world. If we visit their places of worship, we find that their beliefs are completely different. Their rituals are completely different. Their mythologies have nothing to do with what we learned. One way to understand their culture is to learn the symbols they use, which means their language. But if we learn a new way of being, a new religion or philosophy, this may create a conflict with what we learned before. New beliefs clash with old beliefs, and the doubt comes right away. What is right and what is wrong? Is it true what I learned before? Is it true what I am learning right now? What is the truth?
So again, it's a matter of agreement, right? That we learn that, okay, this is this and this is that. But is it actually that? That is a matter of experience. So unless you have the real experience, it's very difficult to discern what is true and what is not true.
The truth is that all of our knowledge, 100% of it, is nothing more than symbolism or words that we invent for the need to understand and express what we perceive. Every word in our mind and on this page is just a symbol, but every word has the power of our faith because we believe in its meaning without a doubt. Humans construct an entire belief system made up of symbols. We build an entire edifice of knowledge. Then we use everything we know, which is nothing but symbology, to justify what we believe, to try to explain first to ourselves, then to everybody around us, the way we perceive ourselves, the way we perceive the entire universe.
So again, it's all a matter of perception. What are we perceiving? How are we perceiving? And what it means to us.
If we are aware of this, then it's easy to understand that all of the different mythologies, religions, and philosophies around the world, all of the different beliefs, the ways of thinking, are nothing but agreements with ourselves and with other humans. They are our creation, but are they true? Everything that exists is true. The earth is true. The stars are true. The entire universe has always been true. But the symbols that we use to construct what we know are only true because we say so.
So absolutely right, right? The symbols that we are saying that are true is becoming true. If we say it's false, for us it is false.
There's a beautiful story in the Bible that illustrates the relationship between God and humans. In this story, Adam and God are walking together around the world, and God asks Adam what he wants to name everything. One by one, Adam gives a name to everything he perceives. Let's call this a tree. Let's call this a bird. Let's call this a flower. And God agrees with Adam. The story is about the creation of symbols, the creation of an entire language, and it works by agreement.
So again, a tree was always a tree, right? It was always what it was. It's just that we are putting a label on it, right? When we name it, we put a label on it. Now, when we are going into higher states again, the experience of what you are experiencing is more important than the label. And that symbolism, when we have to read between the lines in those states also. That's why it's important when we are going in those states not to start labeling things. Maybe, you make a sketch, you make a doodle, so that you don't know what you are experiencing there many times. That's why we always tell people not to label things. But over here, when we are living in this earth life existence, we need to label things. Otherwise, we will not be able to communicate with each other. We won't understand what the other person is actually saying or meaning.
It's like two sides of the same coin. We can say that one side is pure perception, what Adam perceives. The other side is the meaning that Adam gives to whatever he perceives. There's the object of perception, which is the truth, and there's our interpretation of the truth, which is just a point of view.
So absolutely true, right? Our perception is just a point of view, the means by which we are attempting to understand something. If more information comes in, then our perception or interpretation of the truth can absolutely change. But what is will remain what is.
The truth is objective, and we call it science. Our interpretation of the truth is subjective, and we call it art. Science and art, the truth, and our interpretation of the truth. The real truth is life's creation, and it's absolute truth because it's truth for everyone. Our interpretation of the truth is our creation, and it's a relative truth because it's only truth by agreement. With this awareness, we can begin to understand the human mind.
So what is true is actually true, right? How we are perceiving it is the interpretation, which can change. But the absolute truth will always remain the truth, whether we like it or not. That's also a distinction between religion and spirituality. In spirituality, you're looking for the truth, right? In religion, it is more ritualistic. So someone has perceived something and that has become the truth. Now, that may not be the truth. But when we are going into spiritual endeavors, then there's no dogma involved, right? We are constantly looking for the actual truth and we are constantly moving towards it.
All humans are programmed to perceive the truth, and we don't need a language to do this. But in order to express the truth, we need to use a language, and that expression is our art.
So again, when we go into altered states, many times you experience something, right? And it becomes very difficult to express it in words because there are no words to express our experience. So, how we express something is an art. But what we have perceived, what we have actually experienced in those states, for example, are the truth. But how do we explain something to something that someone else has not experienced to that person? It's like if you would like to explain the taste of salt to someone who's never tasted salt, try to do it. Okay. I think it's literally impossible.
It's no longer the truth because words are symbols. The symbols can only represent or symbolize the truth. For example, we can see a tree even if we don't know the symbol tree. Without the symbol, we just see an object. The object is real, it is truth, and we perceive it. Only we call it a tree. We are using art to express a point of view. By using more symbols, we can describe the tree, every leaf, every color. We can say it's a big tree, a small tree, a beautiful tree, an ugly tree. But is it the truth? No, the tree is still the same tree. Our interpretation of the tree will depend on our emotional reaction to the tree, and our emotional reaction will depend on the symbols that we use to recreate the tree in our mind. As you can see, our interpretation of the tree is not exactly the truth, but our interpretation is a reflection of the truth, and that reflection is what we call the human mind. The human mind is nothing but a virtual reality. It isn't real. What's real is truth. What's truth is truth for everyone. But the virtual reality is our personal creation. It's our art, and it's only truth for each one of us.
So, again, this is very important here, right? The human mind is nothing but a virtual reality. So we actually are existing in a virtual reality. If you look at science and into the physics of things, then everything is made out of nothing. Why? Because the atom is 99.99% space and everything is made out of the atom. So what we perceive as solid, as something constructed over here, is actually not there, but we are still perceiving it. So we are living in a virtual reality world. Okay, it's actually not the truth. That is why all the spiritual seekers want to go into these altered states to actually perceive what is true. So in the Hindu system, we have Maya. We say that everything around us is Maya, and Maya is not the truth. It is an illusion, right? So we are living in a virtual reality which we have personally created for ourselves.
All humans are artists, all of us. Every symbol, every word is a little piece of art. From my point of view, and thanks to our programming, our greatest masterpiece of art is the use of a language to create an entire virtual reality within our mind.
So it's the language, right? The labeling, which allows us to create this virtual reality.
From my point of view, and thanks to our programming, our greatest masterpiece of art is the use of a language to create an entire virtual reality within our mind. The virtual reality we create could be a clear reflection of the truth, or it could be completely distorted. Either way, it's art. Our creation could be our personal heaven, or it could be our personal hell.
So
It
again, this
doesn't
is very important, right? Because however we perceive something, that is what our experience leads to. So again, we say that when we get into these altered realities, we are going into thought responsive states of consciousness. So over there, you could be in hell or in heaven. But it is true over here also, right? We can, whatever situation we are in, we can make it hell for us, and we can make it heaven for us. It all depends on how we are relating to and connecting to the situation that we are in.
Our creation could be our personal heaven or it could be our personal hell. It doesn't matter, it's art. But what we can do with the awareness of what is truth and what is virtual is endless. The truth leads to self mastery, to a life that's very easy. Our distortion of the truth often leads to needless conflict and human suffering. Awareness makes all the difference.
So again, it's all about being aware, right? As you expand your awareness, you start to distinguish what is the truth and what is virtual, which is actually the untruth, right? Now, the more we connect to truth, the better and more in flow we will be. And when we are in the flow, then life becomes easy. When we are not in the flow, it creates problems, right? So the point again is expansion of awareness.
Humans are born with awareness. We are born to perceive the truth. But we accumulate knowledge and we learn to deny what we perceive. We practice not being aware and we master not being aware. The word is pure magic, and we learn to use our magic against ourselves, against creation, against our own kind.
So again, very important, right? We learn to deny what we perceive. So a lot of things that we are perceiving, we make ourselves not aware of it. So whatever you are interested in, that is what you will perceive. Now, most of the stuff we are not interested in. So we actually deny what we are perceiving. And our perception is used to create our reality. So it is the magic that we have. In the same situation, we can experience heaven and we can experience hell. It's all a matter of how we are perceiving something around us, and that magic is in our hands.
To be aware means to open our eyes to see the truth. When we see the truth, we see everything just as it is, not the way we believe it is, not the way we wish it to be.
So again, this is
Awareness.
very important, right? When we become aware, we see things as it is. We do not put any kind of an emotional attachment to that particular thing, right? When we leave emotion out, that is when we can actually perceive thing as it is. Most of the distortion takes place because of emotions.
Awareness opens the door to millions of possibilities, and if we know that we are the artist of our own life, we can make a choice from all those possibilities.
So again, the point here is that this is something that we read in Zero Limits, that we are responsible for anything that comes into our awareness, right? Now, as soon as we become aware of something, we are connected to that. We are the creators of that. We are the artist which has actually formed that. And when we are taking responsibility for what we are becoming aware of, we have choices of doing things vis-a-vis that. How are we going to handle it? What are we going to do in that situation? All those choices and possibilities then start to manifest. But first, we need to take responsibility, which is something that most people tend to, or all of us tend to avoid. That's why we get stuck with a situation and then we start blaming the situation that I had no choice in this. Why? Because we are not taking responsibility for that particular situation.
Awareness opens the door to millions of possibilities, and if we know that we are the artist of our own life, we can make a choice from all those possibilities. What I'm sharing with you comes from my personal training, which I call Toltec wisdom. Toltec is a Nahuatl word meaning artist. From my point of view, to be a Toltec has nothing to do with any philosophy or place in the world. To be a Toltec is just to be an artist. A Toltec is an artist of the spirit. And as artists, we like beauty. We don't like what is not beauty. If we become better artists, our virtual reality becomes a better reflection of the truth. And we can create a masterpiece of heaven with our art.
So again, very important, right? Right in the first introduction itself, it said that Toltec philosophy is a way of life, right? It is not a religion, and it's a spiritual kind of a tradition. So what happens that today any spiritualist, right, any person who's into spirituality has a way of looking at things. They look at things from the right side of the grid. A person who's really truly spiritual will always look at things from the right side of the grid, and from that side everything becomes beautiful, right? And we create our reality, so our perception is creating our reality. So we are the artists of our reality, and we can create a beautiful masterpiece around us at any point in time, because it's all based on how are we perceiving things around us.
Thousands of years ago, the Toltec created three masteries of the artist: the mastery of awareness, the mastery of transformation, and the mastery of love, intent, or faith. The separation is just for our understanding because the three masteries become only one. The truth is only one, and the truth, sorry, and the truth is what we are talking about. These three masteries guide us out of suffering and return us to our true nature, which is happiness, freedom, and love.
So again, mastery over awareness. What are we aware about? Once we become aware, we are in a position to transform it. And how do we transform it? Through love, intent, and faith. Ultimately, all these things will merge. And what are we really looking for in life is happiness, freedom, and ultimately love. So when we look at it from the map of consciousness, the David Hawkins map, it is operating 500 and above. That is love and above. That's the game that we are actually playing.
The Toltec understood that we are going to create a virtual reality with or without awareness. If it's with awareness, we are going to enjoy our creation.
Now, this becomes very important, right? Which side of the grid are you creating your reality? What is the state of consciousness that you are operating from when you are creating your reality will determine how you interact and what you perceive in that particular reality. And the key is awareness. How aware are you when you are creating your reality?
If it's with awareness, we are going to enjoy our creation, and whether we facilitate the transformation or resist it, our virtual reality is always transforming. If we practice the art of transformation, soon we are facilitating the transformation, and instead of using our magic against ourselves, we are using our magic for the expression of our happiness and our love. When we master love, intent, or faith, we master the dream of our life. And when all three masteries are accomplished, we reclaim our divinity and become one with God. This is the goal of the Toltec.
So again, whatever we resist will persist. And change is absolutely permanent, right? Everything will change. Everything is transforming. In fact, not even one cell in our body is the same which was there 7 years ago, right? But we still indicate that this is my body. What 7 years ago, what you were, today you're not that. We are constantly growing. Things are constantly transforming. Entropy is something which is constantly happening. Everything is moving towards ultimate destruction, right? So everything is transforming all the time. Now, how do we manage the transformation? Is through love, faith, and trust, right? We need to use that to be able to manage the transformation, which takes us in the direction of moksha, right? In the Hindu philosophy, salvation in the Christian philosophy, Vaikunt again in the Hindu philosophy, right? And to become one with God. That is the goal of the Toltec also. So, really speaking, all spirituality wants to take us only to one place, that is to merge with the Godhead, merge with the ultimate truth, which is the truth. This is something that we saw in Matrix also, right? Everything was a virtual reality, and people actually felt they were really living when they were actually just jacked into a machine and existing in that virtual reality. When they were taken out of that reality, they were unjacked. That is when they came into the physical reality, and it was all controlled by a master computer. So the same thing could be happening over here, right? So again, what is the reality that we are experiencing and how do we manage it?
The Toltec didn't have the technology that we have at the present time. They didn't know about the virtual reality of computers, but they knew how to master the virtual reality of the human mind. The mastery of the human mind requires complete control of the attention, the way we interpret and react to information we perceive from inside of us and outside of us.
This becomes very important, right? The mastery of the mind is all in the attention. So wherever we pay attention, that's where the energy flows. That's what's comes into our awareness. So what are we paying attention to? How are we reacting or assessing it? Which is what creates our reality. And this information can come internally, externally, it can be a download. And that perception is what we need to take control of. What am I perceiving? What am I paying attention to?
The mastery of the human mind requires control of the attention, the way we interpret and react to information we perceive from inside of us and outside of us. The Toltec understood that each one of us is just like God, but instead of creating, we recreate. And what do we recreate? What we perceive. That is what becomes the human mind.
So again, creating and recreating. That's why we say research. The search is already there. It's already existing. We are now only just researching it. That means refinding what is the meaning. So we are constantly attempting to find out what is real, but it is the reality is already existing.
If we can understand what the human mind is and what the human mind does, we can begin to separate reality from virtual reality or pure perception, which is truth, from symbology, which is art. Self mastery is all about awareness and it begins with self awareness. First, to be aware of what is real and then to be aware of what is virtual, which means what we believe about what is real. With this awareness, we know that we can change what is virtual by changing what we believe. What is real, we cannot change, and it doesn't matter what we believe.
So again, the virtual reality can be changed by changing our belief system. But what is true will always remain the truth, whether we believe it or we don't, right? So that's why many times when we are going into these altered realities and the stuff that we do, when we tell people, they think we are crazy. It's not possible. But for us, it is a reality. We have experienced it, right? Now, previously, I used to start arguing with the people. But when you are attempting to explain something to someone who has not experienced it, they will simply not agree with you. So drop the argument. Be with yourself. Be with what you are clear about, that what is real and what is not. The person has to experience it for themselves to actually shift their belief system. And again, the idea is to transcend our belief system, drop all beliefs at the end of the day, ultimately, right? That's when you can operate in the zero state. And that's when we can connect with the Godhead. It's not an easy task, but one step at a time. I think we'll all get there.
The story of you. The first agreement: be impeccable with your word.
So this is the first agreement from the four agreements. Be impeccable with your word, right? And this is very important, because if you're not true to ourselves, then who can we be true to, right? When we give our word, we must be true to it. So be impeccable with your word.
For thousands of years, humans have tried to understand the universe, nature, and mainly human nature. It's amazing to observe humans in action all around the world, in all the different places and cultures that exist on this beautiful planet Earth. Humans make a lot of effort to understand, but in doing so, we also make a lot of assumptions. As artists, we distort the truth and create the most amazing theories. We create entire philosophies and the most amazing religions. We create stories and superstitions about everything, including ourselves. And this is exactly the main point. We create them.
Okay, so in order to understand something, a lot of assumptions are also always made. And those assumptions actually distort what is the truth. So the second agreement is do not make any assumptions, or the third agreement, right? The simple reason is that any assumption we make actually distorts the truth, and what we are perceiving, it distorts it.
Humans are born with the power of creation, and we are constantly creating stories with the words that we learn. Every one of us uses the word to form our opinions, to express our point of view.
So
Some
again, our perception is always dependent on our opinions, or what is the meter or the soundtrack which is running behind the scenes, which creates our opinion, which colors the way that we are perceiving things.
countless events are happening all around us, and using the attention, we have the capacity to put all these events together in a story. We create the story of our own life, the story of our family, the story of our community, the story of our country, the story of humanity, the story of the entire world. Every one of us has a story that we share, a message that we deliver to ourselves and to everyone and everything around us.
So again, suppose you have one group of friends who have experienced a particular event, right? If you ask what happened to each one of them, you will get a slightly different story. Why? Because it totally depends on the way that they are actually perceiving what has happened. So they are creating their own story. So we are all of us, whatever is happening around us, we are all creating our own story.
You were programmed to deliver a message, and the creation of that message is your greatest art. What is the message? Your life. With that message, you create mainly the story of you and then a story about everything you perceive. You create an entire virtual reality in your mind, and you live in that reality. When you think, you're thinking in your language, you're repeating in your mind all those symbols that means something to you. You're giving yourself a message, and that message is the truth for you because you believe that it's the truth.
So again, that message is the truth for you because you believe it's the truth. And how do we do that? Today, we are programmed through our DNA to experience life in a certain way. We have our community, we have our upbringing, our parents teach us stuff, our environment teaches us stuff. And then we start accepting that as the truth. Now, whether that is the truth or not is always a question mark. So, that is an investigation that we all need to make, but we all live by our belief systems, right? Whether it is the right thing or wrong thing, that is again a question mark.
The story of you is everything that you know about you, and when I say this, I'm talking to you, knowledge. What you believe you are, not to you, the human, what you really are. As you can see, I make a distinction between you and you because one of you is real and one of you is not real.
So we all have a facade, right? And that facade is making that you. But what are you truly? You are the other you, right? Which is there, which is existing in purity, which does not have any kind of a facade.
You, the physical human, are real. You are the truth. You, knowledge, you're not real. You're virtual. You only exist because of the agreements you made with yourself and with the other humans around you. You, knowledge, come from the symbols you hear in your head, from all the opinions of the people you love, the people you don't love, the people you know, and mostly the people you'll never know.
So again, the distinction between the real you and the you that has been created by us.
Who is talking in your head? You make the assumption that it's you. But if you are the one who is talking, then who is listening? You, knowledge, are the one who is talking in your head, telling you what you are. You, the human, are listening, but you, the human, existed long before you had knowledge. You existed long before you understood all those symbols, before you learned to speak, and just like any child, before he or she learns to speak, you were completely authentic. You didn't pretend to be what you are not. Without even knowing it, you trusted yourself completely. You loved yourself completely. Before you learned knowledge, you were totally free to be what you really are because all those opinions and stories from other humans were not in your head already.
So again, as a child, you were the you, right? But over a period of time, the coverings came, the facades came, the belief systems came, right? And then you became the you. And what is running in our head, that is important. The background music. What are we constantly thinking of? Who would say this? What would my father have said? What would my mother have said? What will society say? Log kya kahenge is a huge thing, right? If you're being your authentic you, then you're not going to be bothered by log kya kahenge. But most of us are totally bothered by log kya kahenge because we are operating more from that you, that belief system you, than the authentic you.
Your mind is full of knowledge, but how you are using that knowledge? How are you using the word when it comes to describing yourself? When you look at yourself in a mirror, do you like what you see or do you judge your body and use all those symbols to tell yourself lies? Is it really true that you are too short or too tall, too heavy or too thin? Is it really true that you are not beautiful? Is it really true that you're not perfect just the way you are?
So again, perception, right? So what is considered beautiful in one society is considered ugly in another society. So now what we are doing over here is that when we are looking at ourselves, right, we are constantly criticizing ourselves. We are not treating ourselves as beautiful, as perfect. We are all perfect. In the eyes of the Lord, we are all perfect. That's why we were made like that, right? There's a reason why all of us come here. There's a reason why we are in the situations that we are in. But we are constantly criticizing. And that's the biggest issue over here. We are perfect, but we don't accept that we are perfect.
Can you see all the judgments that you have about yourself? Every judgment is just an opinion. It's just a point of view. And that point of view wasn't there when you were born.
So again,
Eh,
when you were born, you were without an opinion. You were just who you were. You're not really interested whether you're fat, thin, short, tall, gora, kala, whatever. You were not really interested. Now again, opinions also keep changing, right? So at one point in time, I think in the Victorian age, having big hips was the thing. That if you had the big hip, then you were the most beautiful person. Today you've come to size zero. Now, who's to say that after 100 years, again a big hip will start becoming more prominent? So again, it's all a matter of how we are perceiving and what we are looking at from a society point of view, from the group consciousness. We are creating the reality we exist in because of, it's called a consensual reality. We have all consented, we've all made agreements to experience what we are experiencing in the way that we are experiencing it. But the real truth just cuts through the chaff and comes to what is actually authentic and what is really real.
Can you see all the judgments that you have about yourself? Every judgment is just an opinion. It's just a point of view. And that point of view wasn't there when you were born. Everything you think about yourself, everything you believe about yourself, is because you learned it. You learned the opinions from mom, dad, siblings, and society. They sent you all the images of how a body should look. They expressed all those opinions about the way you are, the way you are not, the way you should be. They delivered a message and you agreed with that message. And now you think so many things about what you are. But are they the truth? You see, the problem is not really knowledge. The problem is believing in a distortion of knowledge. And that is what we call a lie. What is the truth and what is the lie? What is real and what is virtual? Can you see the difference, or do you believe that voice in your head every time it speaks and distorts the truth, while assuring you that what you believe is the way things really are? Is it really true that you're not a good human and that you'll never be good enough? Is it really true that you don't deserve to be happy? Is it really true that you're not worthy of love?
So again, we need to constantly monitor, and this is what I keep saying, right? What is the state of consciousness that we are operating from? To be truly authentic, to be truly living what you are living, you have to be on the right side of the grid. You need to operate on above 200 in the scale of consciousness, right? But most of the time, we are on the left side of the grid and we are constantly creating problems for ourselves. Why? Because we are believing that that is the truth. We need to step out of it and move towards the authentic self, which for which everything is beautiful, everything is good, everything is nice at the end of the day. Again, bad and good is a matter of perspective. So what you think is bad at one point in time, you can totally shift your perspective about it and it can start tasting good. I'm sure that the first time anyone tasted a different kind of a food, maybe you didn't like it. After some time you acquired a taste, right? So it became good. In the beginning it was not good, and then it suddenly became good. So again, interpretations can change.
Remember when a tree was no longer just a tree? Once you learn a language, you interpret a tree and judge a tree according to everything that you know. That's when a tree becomes the beautiful tree, the ugly tree, the scary tree, the wonderful tree. Well, you do the same thing with yourself. You interpret yourself and judge yourself according to everything that you know. That's when you become the good human, the bad human, the guilty one, the crazy one, the powerful one, the weak one, the beautiful one, the ugly one. You are what you believe you are. Then the first question is, what do you believe you are?
So again, what do you believe you are? What do you think you are? That is the most important thing, right? We need to start understanding and looking at ourselves from a higher state of consciousness rather than a lower and a demeaning state of consciousness, which we are constantly looking at ourselves with.
If you use your awareness, you will see everything you believe, and this is how you live your life. Your life is totally dominated by the system of beliefs that you learn. Whatever you believe is creating the story that you're experiencing. Whatever you believe is creating the emotions that you're experiencing. And you may really want to believe that you are what you believe, but that image is completely false. It's not you.
So again, with Robert Monroe, all his programs, the first thing he said that we are all operating in a box, right? And what is that box? It's made of our belief systems. And what do we want to do? We want to poke holes in that box so that we can perceive a greater and a bigger reality, which is more authentic, which is more truthful. The belief system creates a false kind of glasses, which are colored glasses with which you are perceiving. We need to take the glasses off to be able to actually perceive what we truly are.
The real you is unique and it's beyond everything that you know because the real you is the truth. You, the human, are the truth. Your physical presence is real. What you believe about yourself is not real. And it's not important unless you want to create a better story for yourself. Truth or fiction, either way, the story that you're creating is a work of art. It's a wonderful story, a beautiful story, but it's just a story. And it's as close to the truth as you can get by using symbols.
So again, we are creating our own story. And our story that we have created is a work of art, which is absolutely beautiful. You can see that every one of us is unique. Every one of us is a work of art. We have created ourselves using our belief system, right? But it is not the truth, right? Our physical presence, of course, is there if you really see it. But the fact of the matter is, the image that we have created for ourselves is actually not the authentic truth. It is not what you truly are.
As an artist, there is no right or wrong way to create your art. There's just beauty or there's not beauty. There's happiness or there's not happiness. If you believe yourself to be an artist, then everything becomes possible again. Words are your paintbrush and your life is the canvas. You can paint whatever you want to paint. You can even copy another artist's work. But what you express with your paintbrush is the way you see yourself, the way you see the entire reality. What you paint is your life, and how it looks will depend on how you are using the word. When you realize this, it may dawn on you that the word is a powerful tool for creation. When you learn to use that tool with awareness, you can make history with the word. What history? Your life's history, of course, the story of you.
So again, it becomes very, very important to understand the power of what we are saying, or power of what we are thinking, the power of what we are being, right? Now, we are the artists of our life. So we can paint whatever we want in our lives. And that is something that we all need to understand and get. Once we get that and we start taking responsibility for what we are and who we are, that is when we start getting into the flow. We start living life the way that we are meant to live it, rather than living it in the way that others want us to live our lives. And that is when you connect to true authenticity. Okay, and that is what spirituality is all about, living your or being your true self. I think we can stop here today.